Did someone from ResetEra provide a dog whistle for a collective shout in order to campaign against Stellar Blade Blood Rain? In a ResetEra thread entitled Shift Up CEO Hong Tai Chin to IGN, yes, she is younger, she is smaller in size, depicting the main character in the upcoming Stellar Blade sequel, a user by the name of Drunk Truck Driver, who you can see is now banned and is labeled as a troll account, saying, quote, I reported this game to Visa and Mastercard, so hopefully major retailers and digital storefronts won't be allowed to sell it. The main context here is that some people who are talking ill of the game is saying that Evie is looking too young to be wearing the outfits that she seems to be wearing in the game. This got so divisive that even the people who usually use ResetEra needed to chime in. This person is saying, quote, are we dead right now? Seriously, you want to run to payment handlers to censor studio? I get that everyone here doesn't like her design, that's obviously fine, but running to payment handlers to try and censor the game is a cheap move. If you do it to one game, you have to do it to every game that breaks their TOS. So go report GTA 6 as well, go report Cyberpunk or The Witcher. Yes, the character's design is divisive. To me, she just looks like a 20-ish-year-old Asian girl. I understand why others think she looks younger, but come on, reporting them to a payment handler is just ridiculous. However, in a few posts later, somebody did come in and said, before anyone engages, check them post counts. Obviously talking about the age and the amount of posts that the user that posted the initial proclamation made. And the response to that was saying, I just lurk. Like most places, I'm not going to argue or bath faith over here. You give me a solid explanation why this game in particular and not every gotcha game, porn game on Steam or anything else needs to be reported to Visa Mastercard, I'll take it. But to me, this looks like a crappy move, and we would be livid if this had been done to other games by Twitter freaks because they didn't agree with me. Mixtape is a recent example I can think of. Also, holy heck, I just saw how much some of you post. I don't think I have that many comments on even my oldest accounts. Now, before we go any further, what they're talking about with the Visa MasterCard is similar to what Collective Shout did 1 year ago when they gave their campaign to have Visa, MasterCard, and Stripe strip their payment processor support for Steam on the account of having what they called inappropriate games on the platform. And there are a few videos about this subject on GGC Soapbox. You can go check them out in the pinned comment down below for the links. However, Pirate Nation did pick up on the story prior to the user being banned and had this to say on X, quote, some Stellar Blade fans have spotted that some users on ResetEra and other groups are reporting the game to payment companies like Visa and MasterCard. They want to boycott the game, especially after Shift Up will reveal more outfits and content for the game that they think the protagonist is too young. They started by banning discussion of the game altogether. Now users there claim to be reporting it regularly. The banning of discussion might have something to do with this post from Shen Long, one of the moderators on ResetEra, after what they claim was several reports saying this thread has received many reports and would be locked until further notice. And the thread in question was the announcement of Stellar Blade Blood Rain in the Summer Games Fest presentation this past week. This of course had several people crying foul about this, with this person saying, quote, dudes are fully admitting to weaponizing payments and processes to try and F over a game that they don't like. If anything happens, Shift Up would have actual grounds for a lawsuit. Another saying, it's like we're stuck in 2016 purgatory. This always has the opposite effect too. The more you try to ban something, the more people want it. Another YouTuber, Legendary Drops, saying this in response, saying, quote, I remember the last time that people on ResetEra tried to boycott a game, referring to Hogwarts Legacy, which gained 40 million units sold on both PC and on consoles, despite a banning of the game on ResetEra on the grounds that they believe J.K. Rowling would use the royalties from the game in order to support anti-transgender legislation, which was both unfounded and both untrue, since she would not have gained any royalties from the game due to the rights for games being owned by Warner Brothers. Thus, all royalties would go to them and them alone. And this person making reference to the Collective Shout organization, saying, quote, the same strategy as the Australian Puritans. And Mugen Lord had this to say, quote, who takes ResetEra seriously is not going to work no matter how much they cry about it. And even Daddy Warpig had pushed back on this, saying, quote, ResetEra users need to be reported to the FBI because their hard drives are filled with illicit material, I guarantee. However, one person that was supportive of it seemingly was the divisive Your Torch Games, who seemingly has been in favor of the crackdown of Stellar Blade Blood Rain by Visa and Mastercard, and it's got a lot of people's attention. attention. Permaban saying this on X, showing a few of the pictures that might suggest that this might be what was going on, saying, quote, "This whole ResetEra is snitching to Visa and Mastercard situation is extremely wild. It's not because of ResetEra per se, because I dug and found some additional context. Caveat that it's what I could find, and since ResetEra very quickly scrubs posts that make them look bad, some might have more receipts that make what I say here subject to correction. That being said, assuming what I say here is factual enough, it surprised me who exactly supported what he assumed was ResetEra's actions, though in hindsight, maybe I should not be surprised. Hint, is someone who usually claims to be an enemy of ResetEra. So the story firstly. 1. ShiftUp announced that they have more awesome outfits planned for Evie. 2. News broke out here that ResetEra users were caught admitting and supporting snitching on Stellar Blade Blood Rain to Visa and Mastercard. 3. The close to the fact is, to ResetEra's credit, the user, not plural, who did say that turned out to be a troll account that barely have any replies in the forum and was quite quickly banned. 4. Granted, other ResetEra users are throwing the usual smears on ShiftUp, Stellar Blade, and Evie, but only one account went so far as to snitch or support snitching to payment processors. Now, this usually is where all this ends. ResetEra doing what ResetEra does, getting upset at games not pandered to them, but still won't go as heavy as involving payment processors like Collector's Shout. Fair is fair. Then Yorch got himself involved. He pretends to not get involved, but rather evident what his views are. Packer Girl saw his recent posts and screen capped them. He made multiple posts of supporting and even implying that if payment processors end up attacking ShiftUp and Stellar Blade Blood Rain, the CEO and devs deserve it because he created this problem. This is so ironic to me as I witnessed this entire clown show. Firstly, it's surprising to me that despite what we can say about ResetEra, most of its users seem to at least still find it bad taste to snitch to payment processors. Meanwhile, here comes Yorch, low-key gloating and even making a huge scene in support of what he thought was the snitching to payment processors the whole of ResetEra was supporting, which factually it seems they very much do not. Makes it all the more funny that we found out 2 weeks ago Yorch was a moderator of a Stellar Blade fan community who had the CEO he is now actively attacking as a mod as well. Okay, so the first thing we need to put into context here, I didn't put it in the monologue, I'll just put it here because I don't know how to do this whole thing with ResetEra's history when it deals with their banning and their boycotting in a way that seems to be a hard news story, because I don't want to waste a whole lot of time in delving into that rabbit hole because there's a lot to get to when you talk about it. I know the Game & Watch thing was something that was a big thing. The main consensus is that they are so ban happy. Here's the thing, if you see either a subreddit or forum in which there are so much talk about who's a good moderator, who's a draconian moderator, or moderator drama, it's pretty clear you may want to stay away from that, because if there are power hungry mods or there are power tripping mods, then you hear about them, usually it's going to end badly because you can't follow the rules well enough. There's this whole thing that's been going on through the years on tvtropes.org. There's this guy named Viteer who is kind of a jerk to people, and he was removed as the head of tvtropes.org on their forums and all that. And then he got brought back and he's worse than ever. And that's another rabbit hole we can go down. I've been meaning to want to talk about the drama that goes on over there, but there's much more important things to talk about, such as this. But again, I have to say, if you see one of those forums and it doesn't seem like there's an end to the drama and it has to do with moderators or power tripping mods or whatever, you might want to stay away from that. Reddit is full of them anymore, by the way. Now, I do have my thoughts about what has been going on with this ResetEra thing and this recent thing. But the first thing I want to get to, and it has to do with Evie. First of all, did anybody who's complaining about her being young see the trailer? She's using hand-to-hand combat. She's using her fists and her feet in order to combat the lore monsters. I can't remember what they're called right now off the top of my head. I think it's on the T-bar or something like that. Yeah, that might be what it is. But Eve was using her sword, which she stores in her hair, by the way. I was really interested to see where she stores that sword, and the sheath sword that extends when she takes it out of her hair. So she can be a little bit taller and her model can be a little bit older, for lack of a better term. But with Evie, she's using hand-to-hand combat. She's using CQC, so maybe not CQC to a certain extent, but it sounds like that's where they're going with it. I can see where they're going with that. Also, can you tell me you don't know Stellar Blade lore without telling me you don't know Stellar Blade lore? Do you know the angels you're playing as? From what I could tell, they're androids, they're robots. robots. They could be whatever the creator of that particular angel wants them to look like. So they could be thousands of years old, and I get that is to some people an excuse, but in here I don't think it is. And has anybody who's complained seen a Korean female before? I have seen these Asian women. They don't age. Have you seen Naoko Takeuchi? She's like, what, in her 50s? And she looks like she's not a day over 30. She doesn't age. So no, I don't think she looks that young. Now let's get to the story itself, and I can tell you, I get why people were a little bit squeamish, and they have every right to be squeamish. First of all, we all know what ResetEra is capable of. I keep saying they should never have that much power in the game industry to have the pull that they do. And they got some people to bend the knee for them. They are a video game forum. They're not an advocacy group, even though they seem to want to be. No one in the game industry has to listen to a word they're saying, and from the looks of things, they're starting to get the point that ResetEra is full of pearl clutchers who will do anything and everything to get them to listen to them, to get the game companies to listen to them. And thankfully, it's becoming more and more obvious to some of these people that they shouldn't listen to them, that they take away every single opposing viewpoint and then pretend that there's no other opposing viewpoint. And if you remember, these were the same people back when they were still in NeoGAF that overruled Evilore over there. They reopened a thread which Evilore closed. Think about that. These are the people that think that they are above everybody. So it's not surprising that ResetEra would have thought that maybe this was a thing that they could do. And the other thing that made them a little suspicious, a little bit queasy, is because people know what Collective Shout is all about. This is the same tactic they did back in 2025, and it ended up working. With Visa, ended up doing whatever Collective Shout wanted them to do, and we had no say. I mean, Visa, were you ever going to talk to us? Is Stripe ever going to say anything like, hey, no one asked the gamers whether or not they agreed here, or if anybody agreed? They did whatever Collective Shout wanted them to do without any question whatsoever, without even looking at any evidence. And of course, these people were claiming to expose grift. What did they do instead of talking about Collective Shout? They complained that people like Critical Drinker or Justabelle said something against their favorite film. Why was that important in opposition to what Collective Shout was doing? That energy that was spent whining about Critical Drinker existing could have been used for this, and it could have had actual impact. But no, we had to complain instead of talking about actual grift that had actual real world consequence, not only to their home country of Australia, but to around the world. Instead of doing that, they whined that Critical Drinker disliked Superman and James Gunn, or feeding on Eric's Jezebel obsession for some reason. He made 14 videos about Jezebel. I don't understand that. Where's that same level of energy to something like this? 14 videos about Jezebel not liking something you felt they were obligated to like, instead of using that same energy for something that actually had some consequence. And don't worry, I have a lot more I could say, but I'll leave it there. But thank goodness that people like Savvy, and I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I also said something about this particular organization back when they were talking about No Mercy. And again, that's not a game that I would ever go and play and I would ever defend, but I will defend their right to exist, because it would be a slippery slope. If I didn't defend that game, who's to say what would happen if I would defend another game that would be something like that? And again, I would have someone have that sort of mindset to do whatever they did in a game to pixelated characters, that it would not be a real person getting hurt rather than them doing it to a real person. That's just me. And plus, you see where that ended up. Now, as far as this particular thing is concerned, I'm not sure if they're accusing Your Torch Games, who is adamantly against this game for whatever reason he's got, if they're accusing him of being this other guy that posted on ResetEra, or just defending the guy. But one thing that I will say here, and this might be speculation on my part, is when you make an account on ResetEra, you can't use like a Yahoo mail account or a Hotmail account or a Gmail account. You have to use something that has your real name or something on it, and they have to approve you, and it might take a little bit of time. So they have to physically look at the person, see who they are, and determine that you are worthy enough to have your account be activated as a ResetEra member. So they had a week or more to figure out that this guy was worth being on their site, and they looked surprised when they found out he was a troll account. They should have known better. But here's the other thing I think might be worthy of bringing up is that we don't know when they actually banned this particular user, because there's a post on the Kotaku in Action subreddit that had a screenshot of the post, but the post was screenshot at the time before the user got banned. So the possibility is not that ResetEra saw that this guy was just trolling and decided to ban him, but they might have saw the backlash. They might have saw something that Pirate Nation reported, and then they saw, oh boy, I gotta do something, and they went and banned the guy before it got to the point where they had to physically explain what was going on, because that would be really ironic, because if you think about it, ResetEra would definitely not be on the same side as Collector Shout is, because we know what other viewpoints Collector Shout has, and I would tell you right now that ResetEra would not have those kinds of viewpoints. And I don't call ResetEra left-wing by any stretch of the imagination, because left-wing people do not act like this, or they shouldn't. For years, I've been considering myself left-wing, and I'm a left-wing libertarian, according to some political compass tests, but I highly doubt these people are truly left-wing. But to use a tactic that the right-wing would be using, that doesn't sound like something that ResetEra would normally do or would normally agree with. But here's the other thing. We don't know who had this particular account. We don't know who made the account. What we do know is that somebody on ResetEra thought it was a great idea to post that, and might have been also a dog whistle for Collector Shout to say, oh, hey, we could do this. We can actually go there, and to do the same thing they did last year. And we don't know if it was actually a troll account or if it was something like a test to see how it would play out in the ResetEra forum, and they found out that they were going to get a lot of pushback, and they quietly decided to scrub clean everything and everything. As far as your Torch games, this guy really needs to just be quiet. He has this whole thing of who is fake anti-woke and woke, and oh man, that term anymore. I don't understand what his deal is. No one likes him, woke or anti-woke, and there's lots of accusations against him that I'm not going to get into, because that's another rabbit hole. There's a whole bunch of rabbit holes in this field right now, huh? But the bottom line is, do you really want Jack Thompson back? Because this is how you get Jack Thompson back. We have seen countless times that there have been people who would love to censor games because it cuts into their own profits on their own entertainment endeavors, and they try countless tactics, and this is just the latest one. It's just the notion that we've seen that both of these tactics from ResetEra and Collector Shout have worked before, and these companies have bended the knee without even asking anybody else, without even thinking that maybe they were being lied to, or maybe someone within these companies are on the side of the people who are complaining to them, or maybe they have friends inside or something like that. I continue to think that maybe Collector Shout has someone who were friends with them in Visa. Maybe there was something there. I don't know. That was just speculation, but I think maybe you just have to trust that gamers know what they're doing, know what they're playing, understand that they can play a game with a sexy female or with violence, and they're not going to act out what they see on the screen in real life. They are more sane than that, have more faith in them than that. They're not going to suddenly go around and catcall every single female they see who they deem is sexually attractive. They're not going to do that. But what they do need is a voice. They do deserve to be heard. They do deserve to have the voice. And for Collector Shout and then ResetEra to take that away from them, it's just defeating the whole purpose. It's just not going to help. Maybe instead of shunning them, maybe you should listen to them, and maybe you should leave games like this alone. Hard to believe that we've started trying to defend ourselves against people like this in 1992. It's 2026, and we're still being told that we are emulating what we see on a video game or on a cartoon in real life. Maybe have a little bit more faith in us than that. Just maybe. And maybe give consumers the freedom to be consumers. This is anti-consumer. And let's not get into that rabbit hole. Another rabbit hole in this minefield. But I'm going to drone on and on if I keep talking about rabbit holes about this whole thing. Please leave a comment down below about what you thought about this story and this episode. We will keep you informed. I don't know who the we is. Don't ask. But somewhere there's another me around. God help you. Also, if you're not subscribed yet, please do so. It helps me out. Even if you don't agree with everything I say, please be mindful to do that, because it not only helps me out, but it also helps independent voices be heard. Me being one of them. I would hope you would think I would be. And of course, take care of yourself and each other. And with that being said, I will see you next time.